I'm not the biggest fan of movie remakes. There have been a few that have been okay, but for the majorities, most of them have been hot garbage. But I was thinking about what movie from the 80s could be remade and done well in this day and age. And I think I finally figured out what movie that would be. So, if you know me, you know I love animation. One of my all-time favorite animated movies is The Last Unicorn from Rankin Bass, based on the book by Peter Beagle. This was just a fantastic movie when I was a kid, and such a all-star cast to it as well. You had Jeff Bridges as Prince Lear, Mia Farrow, Mia, yeah. I keep, you know, I love the game Crush Crush and Hush Hush, and one of the main characters in it is called Mio Farrow. So I have to make sure that I'm not getting Mio and Mia mixed up. But yeah, Mia Farrow as the unicorn. My hair's just doing its own fucking thing today. So you have the character, you have Mia Farrow, who does the voice of the unicorn, Prince, Lady Amalthea. Angela Lansbury as Mommy Fortuna. Christopher Lee as King Haggard. And just an amazing cast. Adam Arkin as Schmendrick, the magician. So I was thinking this movie could really use, not really use, but it could probably do with a remake, like a kind of like a 80-20 live action remake, 80% live action, 20% CG, because some of it would have to be CG, like the unicorn and some of the other characters in the movie, like the talking skeleton and just the butterfly and everything else. But I started thinking about who would I get to in the cast for these roles. So, without any further ado, here is my cast list for my fan casting of a Last Unicorn live action movie. So, I'm going to start with the voice characters first. So, we're going to start with one of my favorite characters. It's only in for a few scenes, but the interaction this character has with Molly Grew is just fantastic. It is the cat who talks like a pirate. And I was starting to think, who could we get to do this voice for the cat? And I couldn't think of anybody better than the internet's own Ego Raptor, aka Aaron Hansen, as doing the voice of the cat that talks like a pirate. I think that would be fantastic and kind of funny to hear him do that voice. No one tried. Oh God, I'm trying to remember. I gotta watch that movie again. But some of the lines he has is just amazing and phenomenal. So Aaron Hansen, I think, would do a great job. So the next voice role that I want to get into is kind of a more significant role. Not like I think it has about the same amount of screen time as the cat, but I still think this is a great character who the voice I picked would be fantastic for it. It's the butterfly that talks to the unicorn and just talks in nothing but songs and poems and things like that. Who would I get as the butterfly? That would be Bill Hader. I think he would do a great job bringing this chaotic energy to life of this butterfly. And he could do all these poems and songs with just great either pure reverence or silliness or whatever. Because if you've heard like his voice role in Inside Out, he was in the first Inside Out movie. I don't think he was in the second one. But his role as Panic or Fear was just great, and he can do stuff like that. So I think Bill Hader would do a great job as the butterfly. Now, in the original movie, this character didn't have many speaking lines, or didn't have any speaking lines, I should say. But I think with the voice that I've given it, it would be powerful to hear all the roars and groans from the Red Bull. I had to think about who would be who would do a great job of just bringing those groans and roars to life. And, you know, your first thought would go to Peter Welker. Yeah, he would do a great job, but I think he's getting a little too old. But I think that would be a good choice. That would be a really good choice. Then I thought maybe Keith David. That would be a great choice too. He's got that low rumbling baritone. But then I finally settled on Clancy Brown. Yes, I know he's the voice of Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob SquarePants. Has been for over 20 years now. Shit, that show's been going on for so long and made so many movies too. But I think Clancy Brown would just be phenomenal. Just that low, deep, low voice. And you put a little reverb on it, put a little effects on it, and that would send chills up my spine. So I think Clancy Brown would do wonderfully at it. Okay, so now we are into our live action cast. Well, one of them is kind of hybrid live action CG because, you know, of the character, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Trying to remember who I have next up on this list. Let me just see. Yes. Okay, good. So next up for the live action portion would be, who would I get to cast as Molly Grew? She would need to bring this weatheredness to her. And she would really have to nail that whole scene when she first sees the unicorns. Like, how dare you? Why didn't you come to me when I was new? Now you're coming to me like this? Damn you! She would really have to pull that off. And I think the best choice for Molly Grew would be Carrie Coon. She just kind of looks the part. I think she would do an amazing job. Now, personally, you know, I'm just going by a look here. I've never actually seen Carrie Coon in anything, but I think she would do just a fantastic job. Next up would be the role of King Haggard. Now, if this were like 10 years ago, 10 to 12 years ago, I would have said, let's put Christopher Lee back in the role. Because, you know, at that time, he was about 80 years old. He just looked the part. Like, he sounded the part in the original movie back in 1982. But he looked the part by the time just before his death. But unfortunately, now Christopher Lee has passed away. So who would you get to take his place and be King Haggard? I think that honor should go to the one, the only Jeremy Irons. He would be such a great King Haggard. He has that look to him, and he has the voice. He could give Haggard that gravitas because, you know, how he did as Scar in The Lion King. I think Jeremy Irons would just be phenomenal. Next up, we've got the Wizard Schmendrick, and who would I cast as Schmendrick? Now, the more I thought about it, the more I thought that this casting would make sense because just the look, you know, Schmendrick is kind of lanky, got the wild hair. Well, not so much wild, but he's got the hair, just the angle of his face and the nose. I, you know, hate to have that characteristic. But so I started thinking about it, and then the more I thought about it, the more this casting made sense because he is a huge fan of not only the original novel, The Last Unicorn, he's also a huge fan of the movie as well. His band, Ninja Sex Party, also did a cover of The Last Unicorn, the title song of the original movie. I would also want him to sing that and Man's Road as well on the soundtrack. But for Schmendrick, I would go with Dan Avidan from Ninja Sex Party, Game Grumps, Starbomb. He just looks the part. He looks like Schmendrick. That would be a really, really great role for him. And if I were casting this, I would go all in on getting Dan Avidan to not only play Schmendrick, but also to sing on the soundtrack as well, because he's a fantastic singer. If you've seen or heard Ninja Sex Party or Starbomb or any of his solo work, he is just a great, great singer. So I would want him doing multiple roles for the movie. Next up, we have the role of Prince Lear, son of King Haggard. This is a really interesting one because you need somebody fairly handsome, fairly dashing. And I think when I thought of Prince Lear, it was like, okay, this one just smacked me right in the face. And I would have to go with Joe Keery from Stranger Things, Spree. You know, looking at that picture right there, he could pull it off. He could absolutely pull off the role of Prince Lear. I think he would be great. And I was thinking maybe he might be a little too young for the role. But then I looked at his age and the age of who I have playing Lady Amalthea. And then, nah, this works. This absolutely 100% works. So I think Joe Keery would do a fantastic job. He's charming, he's handsome, and he could pull off Prince Lear very, very well. So now we're down to the unicorn Lady Amalthea. And for this, I actually have two picks for her voice. One her singing voice and one her actual voice and her human form as well. So we'll start with her singing voice because the person who I have picked for her Lady Amalthea in her human form, she said straight up she can sing, but she's not a singer. And I'd want a singer for this because I would want to include the song that Lady Amalthea sang in the original movie. And I think for this one, I would have to go with Aurora as the singing voice for Lady Amalthea. She's just got that ethereal voice that Amalthea needs. She would kill it. Like 100%, she would kill it and would do a fantastic job. So now that leads me with the main role of the last unicorn, Lady Amalthea. And when I was thinking of this, I was thinking of somebody who would need a gentle voice, who could be a little, when she's emotional, you can feel it in her voice as well. And then when you got to Princess Lady Amalthea in her human form, you would also need somebody beautiful as well. Like, you know, I hate to boil it down to physical looks, but Princess Amalthea, Lady Amalthea, whatever, she was a beautiful woman in her form because, you know, she's a unicorn. Of course she'd be beautiful. So I started thinking someone with a gentle voice who could be commanding when needed to be and is also beautiful. Come on. I gotta give the main role of Lady Amalthea and the speaking voice of the unicorn to Brianna White. She would just fit that bill perfectly. You'd have to, you know, CG her eyes because I think she has brown eyes and Amalthea has purple eyes. But you can CG that shit easily. So, and, you know, she's a great actress and, you know, the whole gentle voice. Aerith. That's all I need to say is Aerith. So I think this is a pretty solid cast for Last Unicorn. And if they do ever make a live action remake of it, you know, I hope that they would look at this casting and be like, maybe. But that is my casting. Let me know what you think.